Today we are going to discuss the worlds of water and fire in greater detail. Now, some of the questions that we will address today is how was our world, the world of water, created in 7 days? Now, these questions are all designed to take us to understanding the world of water and then the world of fire. How is life conveyed in our world of water? What happens at a spiritual level during conception? Because that is the starting point of our lives. And is humanity the most intelligent of all creation? We like to think we are, but today we are going to have a more honest look at that. What is the world of fire? What do the scriptures say about the beings of this world of fire? Do they exist in parallel with our world? Does our world interact with theirs? But we'll explore these questions not from the perspective of folklore and myth and superstition. We're going to approach this subject more from the perspective of science, logic, and spirituality. And let's see what understanding we can all walk away from at the end of this class of these two worlds. And I hope that it will be one of clarity. Now, last week I shared with you an introduction of the seven worlds. So let's start by refreshing our memories. Let's look at the diagram of the seven worlds, okay? And we talked about the world of light being at the core of the seven worlds. And then you have the world of water, which is our world, and the world of fire. And these are the only two worlds which are experiential in nature, where souls can manifest and gain experience, and experience becomes knowledge, and knowledge is light. Then you've got the world of formation, where everything, all forms created in all the worlds occur from this world. We've got the world of thought, which is a fascinating world because thought has life. All the experience that has manifested in the worlds is present in the world of thought. And we can, in our present life, live within the worlds of water and thought in parallel, for example. Then there is the world of the eternal, which is the world immediately, when we transition from this life. And also, can we access this world during our lifetime? We'll explore that. The world of assimilation, which is the closest world to the world of light, because this is where all the knowledge that a soul has derived gets assimilated and knowledge becomes light. And that's how you reach the world of light. So this is just a quick recap of the seven worlds. Now, let's look at the world of water. And the world of water is our beautiful planet, universe, the world as we know it. And then let's look at the world of fire, which exists in parallel to our world of water. Now, I propose to cover these two worlds together because they are both experiential in nature. And so they share so many common elements. So rather than go back and forth and split them into two classes and keep referring back to each other, I thought let's learn them all together, both worlds side by side. And let's start with the world of water. Now, this is the world we all know so much about. So let us explore aspects of this world that perhaps we don't know so much about. The scriptures say that the earth was created in 7 days. So let us start by understanding or trying to decipher what does this 7 days mean? What are they? And what happened during each of these days? Now, I was exposed to this knowledge when I was writing the book of the Alakansara, the civilization which came to the world after the Mahabharata era, which was there was the war between the forces of good and the forces of evil, and the forces of good prevailed, but the world was left devastated. And so the Alakansaran civilization came to our world as beings of neutrality, to heal the world and to prepare it for future generations and future civilizations to follow. So they were a very advanced civilization. I did talk about them in last week's class. And I wrote this book in the form of a story so as to convey some of their very deep knowledge in simple terms. Now, the main character in the book is a young banker by the name of Juan Lopez. And he's a banker from Madrid who visits Mount Avila in Caracas, in Venezuela, where he participates in a group meditation at the top of the mountain with some of the shamans and spiritually elevated people. And according to the story, during the meditation, Juan Lopez unknowingly crosses a gateway into the world of the Alcancera, where he meets Ohuma, who is a wise old man who becomes his guide as he journeys through the Alcanceran world, learning about their science and universal consciousness. Now let's listen to a conversation between Juan Lopez and Ohuma with respect to the creation of the earth. How did it happen? What was their view? And Juan Lopez says to Ohuma that in so many of our scriptures we read about the earth having been created in 7 days. He said, obviously, we all know that the 7 days do not mean literally 7 days. But can you tell me from what you know, what actually happened in those 7 days? And Ohuma says that rather than think of the process of creation as 7 days, think of it as 7 phases, because then it's less confusing. The days, as mentioned in the scriptures, are not the fixed 24-hour days that we have come to know. So during the formation of the earth, it was formed in 7 stages, 7 phases. And he says, let me answer your question by telling you the story of baby sun and her journey, which will help you to appreciate how the earth was created to be what it is today. So baby sun is the child of the sun. And he said that there was once, this is a metaphorical explanation, but he said there was once a ball of radiant energy that split from its parent, the sun, like a child that leaves its parent's home. It was a sad parting between parent and child. But just like every bird has to leave the nest, so did baby sun. She had to branch out on a journey of her own with the blessing of her parent. And then Ohuma says that baby sun, who embodied all the energies of her parent, was reassured by the sun that wherever she went and whatever life forms she was going to host, that the sun would always be there to provide for all their needs. So this parting of baby sun from her parent can be considered the first day in the creation of the earth. If we were to use the terminology of your scriptures, Ohuma says, so it will be the first phase, the first day. He said, then baby sun traveled a long distance from the sun to an exact point of transformation. And this long journey to this point of transformation was the second day in the creation of the earth. Then he said that at the point of transformation, she began to undergo a rapid change. She began to transform into a cloud of dust particles, which came together in the form of an egg. And he said, the cloud grew denser and denser until baby sun and her light were completely encapsulated within the egg. And he said, here, the caring and protective bosom of the egg, the energies of baby sun transformed from energy into solid matter. And water was the byproduct of this conversion of energy to matter. Now, I was having a discussion with a young man who is in his late 20s, very inspired soul. He is also a member of our shift group who was going to join us for the Antarctic meditation. I was having a conversation with him and I was talking to him about this particular origin of the earth, where the sun's energy transformed into solid and water. And he offered to do a painting for us. And, I said, think about it, and whatever you're inspired with, paint. And he's a very, very talented artist. So this is what he produced. Phenomenal painting. What an inspired young man. But this was, according to him, baby sun inside of that protective egg. And her energy is manifesting into solid particles and water. What a beautiful, beautiful painting. So I thought this was his labor of love for us all to share. And you can visualize what Ahuma is saying occurred within the shell of the egg. The solid mass of land that was formed inside the egg then settled. And it got completely covered with water. And all this was held together by the protective shell of the egg. And this was the fourth day of creation of the earth, which provided the basis for creation of life underwater. Because the solid matter was completely covered by water. The whole world was one ocean, the original ocean. And so this was the basis for life underwater to begin to form. So Juan Lopez said, he said, this reminds me of how the chick incubates in the egg until it is ready to hatch in the world. And Ahuma says exactly. He says, once the incubation of baby sun was complete, the water began to dissipate and form an atmosphere that slowly replaced the protective coating of the eggshell. So instead of that dust cloud now, it was pushed away, and you now had an atmosphere around the earth. And this formation of the atmosphere was the fifth day of creation. And he said, now the earth was born. Then it began to spin freely on its axis and follow a cycle that caused it to constantly travel around its glorious parent, the sun. The earth is constantly connected to its parent, the sun. And he said this new egg-shaped planet Earth was just one mass of water which covered all the solid matter that lay beneath it. And he said this water was salty because it had dissolved minerals from the solid matter. So let's call this water that covered the whole earth the original ocean. He said then the water underwent redistribution and it became ice, liquid water, and water vapor. So as this water of the original ocean evaporated and became sweet water, it became ice and became the atmosphere, the level of the original ocean went down and the land masses in different places began to come above the water. So that one original ocean then split into many oceans as we know them today. And all the water that remained in the oceans was salty. Everything that had evaporated was sweet. And then he said that in the final phase, the life which originated in the oceans, he said, began to live on land and in the air, making the planet Earth as we know it today. So with land, with forests, with rivers, oceans, marine life, terrestrial life, birds. He said the creation and evolution of life spanning all parts of the earth was the seventh day of creation. So Ahuma says, Juan Lopez, these are the 7 phases of creation of the earth. And he says, this is what your scriptures have talked about. So when we looked at the 6th day, before the 7th, it provided the basis of creation of life on land because now there was the atmosphere and the sweet water and all. And the 7th day was life evolving out of the ocean and into all land, sky, birds, everything. So those were the 6th and the 7th days. So then Ahuma says, these are the 7 phases of creation of the earth, the way that your scripture has put it. But he said, now remember, apart from land, water, and air, he said there is also molten lava in the core of the earth. And this is something important for you to recognize as you explore the seven worlds. Remember the molten lava, because we will come back to it as we explore the seven worlds. So through this short metaphorical story related by Homer, we can understand these seven phases of creation. But it also suggests that many other baby suns followed a similar path and manifested into planets and cosmic bodies throughout the universe, making the world of water a living experiential home for souls throughout the universe. Now let's look at our world of water as we know it on Earth. You see, at a very simple level, all life that exists in the world of water is based on water. This is our fundamental vehicle for conveyance and sustenance of life energy in our world. Now, water exists in the air as vapor, in liquid form as water, and in solid as ice or snow. And water is also present in all the living solid physical forms that we see. So every plant, tree, bird, forest, river, lake, ocean are all based on water, and even the atmosphere and the oxygen are derived from water. So where there is no water in the universe, there is no atmosphere to sustain us. So our world of water can only survive or exist in parts of the universe where life can be conveyed through water, and water exists. Now, if you recall in our previous classes, we talked about the creation of the human being as recounted in the scriptures, which was that the Creator formed the human being from mud that comprised water and clay. And both these water and clay being core elements of our earth. And then he breathed his spirit or life force into this creation to make us alive. So this life force was conveyed through water in the clay, making water the most important and intelligent element on our planet. You can imagine a seed that has been under the ground for 500 years, nothing happens, and then that one droplet of water reaches it and it bursts into life. Water is the most intelligent element on our planet, and it is something we have failed to value in its fullest form. And I do believe that in all likelihood, other cosmic bodies similar to the Earth also host water-based life. And nature as we know it does exist within the universes as well. So let us consider the world of water is not restricted to our planet. It can be present throughout the universe in whatever bodies can host life like us. So life as we see it, life energy, is manifested around us and in the universes. And it's important to understand now how this life energy gets associated with the physical forms that exist in our world. And the best way to view this is through the process of conception of a child, because that was the first stage when we were created, when we, each one of us, manifested. So let us explore conception from a material and spiritual dimension. What happened when we were conceived? So once again, our friendly angels, Cyrus and Luminous, are back to help us explore the potential realisms of conception so that we may all be aware of each of those stages. Now, we all know about the physical and biological processes of conception, so we don't need to touch on that, where a man and a woman come together in love into a state of oneness, and this is where a new life is endowed in a form of its own. So how does this endowment of life occur? What happens actually? So Cyrus is sitting with a 40-year-old medical professional, Sarah, who specializes in male and female sexual health. And she's a professional and she's practiced in her field for many years. And Sarah has recognized that there is a lot more to the process of conception than meets the eye. Now, luckily, she has a chance to chat about some of her deep inner thoughts with these two warm, loving angels, Cyrus and Luminous, who join her at her favorite park bench after her daily jog. And Sarah says to them, I have worked on so many cases with couples who have tried to conceive, and I've seen phenomena that I am unable to explain, based purely on what I've learned at medical school. So she says, biologically, it's clear to me that the egg of the woman is fertilized by the sperm of the man. That's clear. And that triggers a series of biochemical processes, resulting in a new life manifesting in the mother's womb. All that is perfectly designed by nature, and in science, we appreciate that, we recognize that. But she says, science can explain to us genetics, it can explain to us how the child shares the genes of the parent and how these genes express themselves in the child, physical and mental form. So genetic science explains all that to us. But she said the question I grapple with is, when does the child actually become alive? We call the word alive. When is the child alive? And she said none of us can agree on this subject because everyone has opinions and hypotheses. It's not an easy question. So Cyrus, who knows a little bit about this subject, he says, let us examine how life energy of the father, mother, and the new being come together at the time of conception. So let's look at the three life energies, the father and the mother, and how they come together for the life energy of the child to manifest at time of conception. And he said, Luminous and I are going to share some simple sketches with you to appreciate this process better. So let me share a couple of illustrations with you, because then you'll be able to see a lot better. And I'll refresh your memories first with a diagram I've shown you many times before. So let's refresh our memories on the life vortex. And if you recall, life energy is mathematically modeled in the shape of a vortex because it goes from the largest of the large. This circle grows larger and larger and larger all the way into the universe. It never ends. So it goes to the infinite on the large scale, and then it goes to infinite on the smallest of the smallest of the small. And life energy, material life, action, movement, they're all in the outer sphere. And the core, the center of the vortex is stillness and nothingness. And this is where the life energy that drives the vortex resides. Okay? So this is a quick recap of life energy, and the same as the life of thought. They all have the same form. So the vortex represents how life energy exists in the world of water, particularly. So for conception to occur, we must have the life energy vortex of the father and mother, and these vortices must merge to form a new vortex, carrying their genetic information and identities at a physical level. So Luminous says each soul has the luminous fluid, that luminous oil we talked about in the parable of the light, parable of Nur. Each soul has that. And that makes the soul the ray which connects the soul to its creator. Now here's a sketch of the great immortal soul. So here, this is the source, the core. There are 10 circles out here. This is the one soul. And as you can see, the Father's soul emanates from its source, which is the brightest. And this ray goes all the way here. So this is the Father, connected to the source, the Creator. And he is on the 10th, he's on the outer circle, so he's on the first stage. Then the Mother, you can see her ray, and she is on the 4th stage. And this is the new soul that is chosen to manifest in our world, the baby, who is in the 3rd stage. So you can see that this is a new soul that will be endowed with life. So that refreshes your memories on the universal soul. And you've seen that the father, mother, and baby are all connected with the source, the creator, via that luminous fluid, which we have shown as the ray in the diagram. So Luminous says that at conception, there are three parties present at a spiritual level: the soul of the father, the soul of the mother, and the creator, who is our source. So conception is a very powerful, sacred process. And it is the creator in that process who engages the soul of the baby to the new physical form that comes from combining the vortices of both the parents. And this is why, we talk about during the experience of our sexuality, what is orgasm? It's a state of temporary insanity, because you lose, your conscious mind shuts down for that very brief moment, paving the way for that spiritual engagement to occur. So Cyrus says that the whole process of conception and sexuality has been made pleasurable for you, and you should all be grateful for that. But he said it also serves a deeper purpose during conception. So you've got the life vortex of the father, life vortex of the mother. These two vortices come together. Father's connected to the source. This is the father's soul, life energy, mother's life energy. And this is the new soul that now is engaged with a physical form that is a combination of these two vortices. So that is a very simple way to look at the process of conception, most importantly recognizing that this, the ultimate, the highest of the high, is present in that process. When the vortex of father and mother merge, all the outer circles of the new vortex make up the new physical form, and this form will now grow. So Cyrus answers Sarah's question by saying, you ask, when does the baby become alive? And he says, the moment conception occurs, the baby is alive. That very instant. And that life energy, which it now possesses, this is what makes it grow and form into a complete body. So the life energy is instantaneously present from that point on. And the most magnificent part, he says, of the conception process is how the life energy of the child is actually endowed by the Creator himself. And he says, when the soul of the child asks to be born in our world of water, its karmic compass is set because it knows what it wants to accomplish. And then through a process of deep divine love, the Creator engages that soul with its new form. And at a physical level, everything happens in the being of the mother, which makes her a truly blessed being. Now, your explanation makes sense, Sarah says, and it does cover this physical and spiritual dimension and how the child is formed. But she says that your explanation now raises new questions in my mind about sexuality and how we practice it. And Cyrus laughed and he said, yes, it does raise a few questions. He said, you see, in ancient traditions, they did recognize the spiritual dimension of sexuality, and hence they were very protective of the woman. Her stature was one of a sacred nature. Hence, the roots of the protection of women are sincere and pure. He said, at the origin, the roots are pure. But then he said, like everything else you human beings do, you change that protection into oppression, control, and heaven knows what else. And he said, some of you have even politicized the womb. So Sarah laughs at these observations of these two friendly angels and says, yeah, we indeed have. And Luminous adds that there is something that needs to be considered here in this day and age of your modern, free, and expressive humanity. And he said the freedom to live one's life the way one chooses is excellent. And he said everyone should treasure this freedom always. You should always be allowed to live your life with freedom. And he said, but at the same time, you must consciously remember that you are beings of water. And all energies within and around you, they shape the nature and quality of the water that is present in you, whether you like it or not. And look at the works of Masaru Emoto, because we can now start to see what it means to be in the world of water. He did a great service to humanity by researching water in an amazing way, where he would take water and put a thought or a message with the water, associate a thought to the water. And then he would drop the temperature of the water down to minus 12 degrees. And then he would photograph the crystals that form in the water. So when he played Mozart's symphony, these were the crystals of the water. When the song Imagine with John Lennon, these were the crystals. Love, look at what a beautiful, holistic crystalline structure forms. This is the Fujiwara water before prayer and after prayer. You can see it's changed. Then he put a message like, I will kill you. And you can see that the water has absolutely no form. It's chaos. It's terrible. When you're grateful, it forms these crystals. When you are at peace, it forms these crystals. So these are physically, scientifically demonstrated how water carries information, how it carries thought. And so this is what the angel is saying is, remember this happens with you. And this, I think, simple experiment reveals that thought can impact water in a significant way. So the angel says, now you are made up of 85% water. So the thought and its energy that you have imprints itself in your blood, in your organs, in your tissues. So your thoughts and emotions have the greatest impact on your well-being. If you're filled with hatred and, like the crystalline structure you saw of I will kill you, well, there is no structure. Can you imagine what your blood looks like? Likewise, if you are at peace, or when you pray, or when you meditate, or when you think positive things, you see that beautiful crystalline structure. That means even the health of your blood and your body and your tissue and your organs is better. And so he says that your own thoughts and emotions have the greatest impact on your well-being. And he said beyond that, you are also affected by the thoughts and energies of people that surround you. So now, Sarah, he says, I see that sexuality, as you enjoy and practice it today, I see it like inviting a guest to your home. And that guest has energies of his or her own, from good to bad to indifferent. And such guests leave those energies behind in your home, impacting you in different ways, positively and negatively. So he said, now you may say that just as you clean your house, you can cleanse yourself of these energies through meditation, prayer, positive affirmations, anchor thought. And he said, this is certainly true. And he said, we would recommend you do this regularly for your well-being. Cleanse yourself. But he says, when it comes to sexuality, he said, you not only let the guest in your house, but you also provide him or her access to that innermost private sanctuary in your house. And he says, how can that impact you? This is something you need to reflect upon. And Cyrus also added, look, we're not here to discuss moralities and do's and don'ts of life. We're simply saying to you that in the world of water, you are all beings of water. And that vortices of thought, emotions, physical energies, they imprint themselves into the water in your being. Unfortunately, he said, you are all here in this precious world wearing beautiful white robes that can stain very easily and visibly. Because you are beings of water. And he said, there's a very good reason why this is so. You chose it. It is because your purpose in this world is to learn and gain knowledge. And hence, your thoughts and actions are able to manifest directly before you and within you in a tangible and visible manner. You are like that finely tuned instruments whose imperfections show easily by virtue of your very own nature. I'll repeat that statement, it's really beautiful. He said, you are all like finely tuned instruments whose imperfections show easily by virtue of your very own nature. We said, but then again, this is why you came into the world of water for your learning. So, my dear friends, this conversation between Sarah and the angels lays the groundwork for us to better appreciate some of the fundamental precepts of our world of water, and conception being the first and very important one. Now, because the process of conception demonstrates how each soul is connected with its creator in the world of water, it makes a lifetime in this world an absolute opportunity and gift for that soul to experience and grow with, because there is that constant connection with the creator through thought, through meditation, through scriptures, through knowledge. So this is one of the key precepts of our world of water. And another fundamental precept of our world of water is our ability to see and appreciate all physical forms in three dimensions: length, width, and height. And any form that exists beyond these three dimensions are invisible to us. That does not mean that they don't exist. They do, but we can't see them. Now, we consider ourselves more advanced and intelligent than other creation. But think for a moment, if our intellectual capacity is limited to experiencing our world in three dimensions, it does make us wonder about how intelligent we really are. My dear friends, this is a good place for us to take a short break, and we will continue with this class in part 2b. So far in 2a, we have covered largely the world of water, and in part 2b, we will then transition to the world of fire. So I do highly recommend that you watch 2a completely before you move to 2b.